football team who was well deserving of winning that football game. I felt like we did some good things in that game, but we didn't finish in the manner in which we should have on the defensive side of the ball, which is, finding ways to take the ball away and give our offense a chance. I thought we played hard. I thought we were competitive. I thought we had a good game plan, but we need to find a way to finish and make some more plays. The great thing about this league here, you don't have time to sit around and feel sorry for yourself. It's a constant, ever evolving week, getting ready for the next opponent. And Washington is a real good football team. All right. We got the word that Jacoby Brissett is going to start. He is a proven veteran in this league that has shown that he can win football games at every place that he's been. They have a solid run game. I think Robinson is probably going to be back this week, and McLaren and Curtis Samuels are pretty good receivers, and that they can make things happen at any time. So, in no way by the stretch of imagination that this is going to be an easy game for us. So we got to show up and play well and be ready to execute. And with that, I'll take your questions.
How do you feel just about the secondary right now? 'Cause it seems like there's some moving parts that could be based on injuries, whether to Jair or Ambry.
Well, I feel real good in regards to the guys that we have, all the way down to Luter. If he has to come in and play, he has definitely shown, and I've gotten a lot of trust from me that he can go in and execute. So it's that time of the year that we're dealing with everything that all other 31 teams are dealing with, which are injuries. So we can't find any excuses in regards to that. We got to show up and play.
Luter established that trust with you. We haven't played a lot in games. I mean, is it the practices that you've been?
I think is how he practices. I think it's how he carries himself. He's a professional. He is definitely a guy that's a little bit more mature to be a rookie, and how he goes about his day-to-day operation. Even when he was hurt, he was constantly here getting treatment. He stayed in there with Daniel Bullock, the DB coach, trying to get better. And you've seen his development and growth. And with that, when he's out on the field, that's where that trust comes in with me.
You talked a lot about his maturity since he was drafted. On the field, how do you see that that's different maybe from other rookies?
Well, number one, I don't think he gets rattled at all. If something good happens, is on to the next play. Likewise, something bad. And that's a sign of a guy that has maturity to understand that position. He doesn't get down on himself. And, going back to the play against Seattle on special teams, just that effort to be able to save that touchdown and give us the opportunity to hold those guys to a field goal. Those kind of plays and those things that he puts on tape is how I equate that trust.
Logan Ryan assimilated to the system.
You want me to give him credit for that question, or you? All right. Logan has done a great job. I was excited when we got him. I knew at some point in time that he was going to do a great job in stepping in for us. His leadership there, and I talked to Fred about this coming off the field yesterday. And I was like, did you feel and see Logan? He's like, yeah, man, he talks. And that's the great sign of a safety, his ability to communicate, particularly when you got a new guy in there and he's stepping up and doing those things. So I like his presence. He has skin on the wall, as I call it. He's been around the league for a while, played in a couple of Super Bowls, so he understands the magnitude of where we are at this time of the year. Chris does a tremendous job, him and Tap, for his meeting with those new guys that we have in. And, they took him out there early, took him to the side and started really trying to change up, his stance, his get off. He's been more of a two-gap guy his whole career. And, of course, you all know that our mindset's a little different. We come off the ball here. So I like his explosion and how he comes off. He plays with violent hands. So I'm excited to have him and looking forward to seeing what he can do for us.
You went with Verrett over Womack this week. What went into that decision? What do you want to see from Samuel Womack?
Consistency, with all our guys. And, a lot, too, goes into, special teams, in regards to him being up and not being up. And we wanted to give Verrett an opportunity and a chance to be able to get his feet wet, try to get back into the flow of things, and seeing if, he can be one of those guys that I think that can help us down the stretch here as we progress towards the playoffs.
Play against that touchdown and then end zone, but otherwise, what did you see from him on the field?
I thought, he worked within the defense. I thought his technique was good on that one particular play. I felt like, we teach chest to chest, particularly when you get in the end zone, you can't turn away from the receiver. And that's what he did, and he lost him, in that split second when the ball was being thrown. So definitely something that's correctable and coachable.
To be able to play whatever, but do you view Verrett mainly as a nickel right now? Is that where you're kind of using him mostly in practice?
Right now, yes. Just for the mere fact, again, I feel very confident in Luter, and you mentioned Sammy as well. So I feel like we have some players out there that we can stack a little bit. To me, it's always that ability if something happens with Demo and then Oliver, who's that third guy.
Playing time do you anticipate Joseph Day having on Sunday?
It varies. It's something that we'll talk about as a defensive staff. Most importantly, something that I communicate and converse with Kyle.
Can Flanagan Fowles, who played safety at Arizona, could he be your emergency safety in a situation if you need a body on game day?
I think Oliver is that guy. I like Flan closer to the line of scrimmage. I think he's more effective there. But, I think, as we try to, think ahead, and, I don't know if you guys seen that practice, but Oliver has been really taking a lot of reps at safety the last couple of weeks. So, that would be our next step if something were to happen there.
Back to Ryan for a second. You don't often see 32-year-old guys lining up on the outside and going down and covering kicks. What does that say about him to you?
Team player, committed, and then also understanding it's the standard here. I was talking about many parts, one body of work. Nobody's bigger than the actual cause. So guys come in and they adapt to how we do things, and that's what he's done. So, again, I like him a lot as a player and as a person. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
On your offensive line, how do you regroup from the last game?
Kind of like every week. We just, you look at your injury report, you kind of put it together and go back and get ready to play the next week. So, last week we were down to the eighth player was on the field. We had Trent go down. Jalen early had a stinger and then was okay. And then something else happened later in the game, so Jalen came out. So Jalen was in, Jalen was up, Jalen was down, then Jalen went up, then Trent went down, then Jalen went in, then Jalen went down. So then we had to flip Colton over and move Spencer out, and then Banks went down at the end of the game. So.
Or offensive linemen, what would
Tight end, Charlie wanted to go in. And we'd have to kind of, makeshift that. And it's kind of funny. I can't remember. I was telling Trent this morning. Because only recently have they gone to 8 offensive linemen. When I got in the NFL, they were always allowed 8 guys. We always had 8 up, but then special teams and everything else took over, so then we went to 7. Everything became 7 all of a sudden. So you had 7, and very few times, probably 3 times in the course of 25, 30 years, did you have to get to the some other position playing offensive line. I think it might have been our last game when I was there in 14, my last game with Trent in Washington. I think Logan Paulson played left tackle for a series or 2 for us because we were down. We lost Trent, we lost Tom Compton, we lost another guy. And so we had to put Logan in for the last series or 2. So, this one is 8 linemen, and you lose 3 guys, and if you lose a 4th, then one more guy, you'd have to go and put a tight end in. So it's tough. But everybody's back working, and I don't know what everybody's injury status is for this week, but I think we've got a fair amount of guys to get back at it.
After Banks going into the Seattle game on Thanksgiving, kind of working his way through that toe injury and toughing it out and playing in that game. Kyle indicated that this injury is not as bad as that one, but do you think that kind of experience can help him just in terms of mentally, like if he does need to push through something again this week?
Yeah, especially since I think it's similar. It might be the same toe. I don't know I think it might be very similar if it's not the same foot, same toe. So at least he knows the feeling. And he's like, oh yeah, this wasn't as bad as last time. It's all an experience that's going to help him.
Answering questions about fullback, and in passing, you kind of mentioned that the team's most effective run concept doesn't even really feature a fullback in the traditional. It's more of a one-back. What is it, that play?
I'm sorry, that most teams run?
No, that your most effective run play. You said it doesn't really feature a fullback in the traditional sense.
Oh yeah, it's just an outside zone play, the tight end, and whether we go how we target it and everything, we're just running straight outside zone with no lead back, no nothing. We're just running the tight end side. It's the play we scored on. Christian scored from the 9-yard line on. And we have a receiver on that side. Usually it's responsible for the corner. There's just a couple different rules, but it's not that confusing. It's just a basic zone where we're kind of There's leverage plays and out leverage plays. In other words, when you're targeting and the play's going, let's say the play's going to the left, and everybody's targets tend to be over there, you kind of have leverage, so you have a chance to cut the defense and run the ball where there's, you kind of cut the defense off and you've got leverage on the defense, right? Then there's out leverage plays where all our targets are over there and we're all kind of going over there, and at some point somebody wins a block and there's an opening for the back to choose. This plays more of those plays that were out leveraged. Everybody's kind of chasing, although on this time it didn't work out that way. But so it's a very basic standard outside zone play, the tight end side.
Chris, what do you think of Barch at left guard, and how did Burford fare in your mind at right tackle?
Oh, Burford struggled, man. He had a hard time. His footing was rough out there. For some reason, a couple of guys were losing their footing towards the end of the game. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it just got wet out there or something towards the end of the evening. But that's no excuse. Spence had gotten limited reps. He was an emergency plan for us at tackle. Went out there and had some good plays, but had more plays that weren't good. Same thing with moving Colt over to the left side. That's an emergency plan. You don't have time or any chance. At certain games when we've had when we didn't have Barch or the third center up, Colton's our emergency center. It's not like we rep him at center. He's able to get the ball up. Now, is he going to make all the calls and block anybody? It's going to be suspect. When you get to that point where you're on the eighth lineman, when you've got your third contingency plan up, it's going to be hard to rep it or get it ready to go. But I'm glad it happened, because what it does, no matter how many times I tell them, guys, you got to be ready because this can happen. We're repping you. You are the fourth tackle in the game. You're the third center in the game. You're the fifth guard, blah, blah, blah. They look at you like you're crazy, coach. It's never going to happen. It doesn't happen until it happens, and then you got to be ready for it.
What did Barch?
I'm sorry, Barch was solid. Yeah, he's solid guard, and I think he's more comfortable right now at guard than center. Although I think I've mentioned to you guys, I like him at center a lot. He's still got to get some more reps in our system at center, but he did a good job, in a limited amount of snaps.
What were the Ravens doing early that had you guys throwing the ball on that opening drive and the first half seemed?
Oh, that's Kyle. I've talked to him about why the play calls come out as they do and what he decides to do on that. We felt really good about. I felt really good during the week about our ability to run the football against him. I think we felt good about some of the things we had in the passing game as well. Obviously, Kyle decides to do what he's going to do with the calls, and when he dials them up, we do the best we can. Felt really good and comfortable with how we were going, and I felt until the injuries, I felt we had a good chance. Obviously, the turnover, short field. There's so many things to win in that game to make it not a good game for us. You have to really look for the silver line. I'm not going to stand up here and say, we got beat. I'm not going to sit here and look for, say, it was really not that bad a game. It was a bad game. But there were some spots in the game early where I felt like we had a chance to have a good game running the ball and protecting the quarterback. And obviously that got away from us as the game went on.
This might be a weird question, but say you were to watch, like, Packers, Bears, 1965, like a replay. Like, would there be any sort of, I'll just ask the question, would there be any sort of, like, concepts, run game type of concepts, you say, well, we still use some of that stuff, or is all that just obsolete?
Oh no, there's a lot of stuff that and I wasn't. I'm old, not quite that old, but I know no. No. If I pull any film out, you're going to see it. Football is a copycat. I mean, so much of it is. I watch Andy every now and then. I remember plays I learned in the West Coast office. When I got to Stanford with Denny Green, Denny was still running the pure West Coast offense from Bill Walsh's playbook and the red book that he put in here and that he learned from Bill. And shoot, I watch every now and then Andy Reid. There's plays that pop up that he learned from Mike Holmgren that you're like, oh, wait a minute, it's a different version of, but it's the same play as I remember learning this play 19W, where Tom Rathman would cut the defensive end and Guy McIntyre would pull around the cut of the defensive end, and you'd hand the ball to Roger Craig around the corner, and they might be handing it to a jet sweep guy with a halfback cutting the end man, but it's all the same concept and play that you'll see people that pull up everywhere. Power plays, sweep plays. There's origins of every play in football. There's only 11 on 11, and you can only cut the pie so many different ways. So there's always going to be something. I'm sure I would glean something from it. Definitely would, especially with some of the stuff that we're doing with more two-back version offense. There wasn't as much one-back shotgun running game and things like that. So that stuff's a little bit new. But there's only there's only so much you could do there. There would be a lot.
Commanders D-line look any different without Sweat and Young? Are they doing?
No, they're not doing anything different. Their ends are obviously they let go two good players for whatever reasons they had for doing it. They have good players that are backing them up and have stepped in and really benefited from the time they've had to play. You've watched them get better every single week, the guys that took over and playing for Sweat and Young. The interior two players are still the strength of defense. Linebackers are fast and physical. Their secondary is young, but they're aggressive. I mean, this is a solid defensive football team. I'm sure Kyle's talked about it, and every week, man, it's about us. I mean, at the end of the day, we all these teams we play. It's a challenge to play. Everybody presents different challenges, personnel personnel-wise. But, man, as you saw last week, if we don't take care of our business, doesn't matter who you play, where you play them, or when you play them, man, it can be a challenge. And these guys are a good football team, and we'll bring. They don't have the record to show it, but they do have good players who play well, and they just haven't had things go their way at this point. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.